Yes, good morning, Nigeria in Akwana. Welcome to Daybreak on Trust TV, reaching you from the nation's capital in Abuja. I am Ayuba Ilya. Super excited to have you on the show this morning. Good morning, Stella.
Good morning, Ayuba. Good morning, Nigeria's Otutuoma Ekaro. You're welcome to join us this morning. My name is Stella Iyaji.
Yes, as we are waking up, and it's a good morning here in the capital city, but not for those who are trying to evacuate the war in Sudan. A lot of stories coming in, a lot of updates that we have received so far, but we understand that the first batch of the evacuees may return to Nigeria today.
May.
Yes, so
the operative word.
yeah, that's
I just hope they leave.
But that's an indication that progress has been made.
It's hopeful. Progress has been made and all of that. But when you read the story, the one in the paper today, you see that they're at the border. They've taken them. They're very close. And but the condition under which they're living right now is nothing to write home about. Really? So indeed, I hope they actually leave today. And you know, the Egypt authority has told them that only those who can, you only take in those who can enter the aircraft. Yes. So they don't want anybody loitering around and all of that. Yes. So that tells us that as the aircraft is leaving, another one should be on ground. Yes. We have to on ground, but so as those ones are leaving, another one should be there to just.
So I'm seeing that an attempt by the Egyptian government to ensure that there is no loitering. So if only the number that the aircraft can take are allowed into Egypt, then it means that all the others will have to stay
wait
at the border. And from what we understand, that the buses that brought them have offloaded all their luggages and moved on. Yes. You know, so they are there. And we also understand that there were certain tents, they are setting up tents there for them to take shelter and the rest of them. But really, it's a traumatic experience.
It is indeed.
For those others have taken the other route.
And even those that are at Port Sudan, they are also being told that they have arrived Port Sudan, but they don't know when they're going to move into Saudi Arabia and then to continue their journey back to Nigeria.
Well, whatever happens,
it's unfortunate that this whole journey is taking this long, to be honest.
Yes, whatever happens, we pray that they arrive Nigeria safely, and we hope that they will get all the attention that they need. And today, being the 3rd of May, also is World Press Freedom Day. It's a special day for journalists and broadcasters. Wherever you see them, please dog your heart for them. They do quite a lot. Really, they do quite a lot, because why am I saying they? We do quite a lot to keep you informed, so that you can make quality decisions. Because at the end of the day, without information, how do you take decisions that are very critical? So that's the job that we do.
I'm actually excited about the day, and then that's because I think that maybe the more we talk about it, the freedom will come.
Yes.
Maybe.
Freedom of press. Very, very crucial and important. Well, let's take a look at the headlines that we have today, this morning. Buhari, my administration protected rights of journalists. That's according to the president there on World Press Freedom Day.
2 months after elections, custom officers yet to collect allowances.
We are upgrading military for global reckoning, says Buhari.
Now let's take a look at the details. President Muhammadu Buhari has said his administration protected the rights of journalists in his 8 years in office. Commenting on this year's theme, shaping a future of rights, freedom of expression as a driver for all human rights, President Buhari, in a release issued on Tuesday to mark this year's World Press Freedom Day, said his administration has kept the faith by ensuring that Nigerian journalists have had unfettered freedom to practice their art. The president charged media professionals to continue to be patriotic, work for the cohesion of the country, and exercise their freedom with a high sense of responsibility.
All right, now officers of the Nigerian Customs Service have expressed dissatisfaction over the non-payment of their election allowances 2 months after the 2023 general elections. The Nigeria Immigration Service had made similar complaints in March, even though investigations revealed that some of them were later paid last month. He said that although the service was not responsible for the payment of the election dues, efforts had been initiated to resolve the issue.
President Muhammadu Buhari has said that the repositioning of the military through training, networking, and equipping will turn into a force of global reckoning while urging officers to keep giving their best to the nation. He made the declaration on Tuesday in Abuja at the commissioning of a nationwide secure defense headquarters communications network, GIWA 2 project phase 1. He assured that the government will sustain its role in meeting the demands of the armed forces by evolving necessary initiatives to enhance their position.
Right now to some of the packages lined up today. The National Industrial Court has fixed May 11 for the continuation of hearing on the legality of the strike embarked by the Academic Staff Union of Universities on the 25th of February 2022. The President of the National Industrial Court of Nigeria, Justice Benedict Kanyip, who presided over the case, gave the ruling on Tuesday in Abuja. Noel Sampson reports.
Issues deliberated during resumed hearing of the 360 suit were those of the legality of the strike action which the federal government considers illegal, as well as the order that the lecturers having embarked on an illegal strike are not entitled to payment during the said period. The federal government is also asking the court not to grant the university's lecturers the request to use their preferred platform for salary payment when, according to government, the platform failed integrity tests. Counsel to the federal government, James Igwe, also made reference to the failure of ASU to file their annual returns beginning from 2014, as well as the teacher gross with the registration of Kunwa and Namdas.
Several years beginning from 2014, ASU never filed their annual returns. The law says you should, as a trade union, before the 1st of June of every year, file your annual returns, but records show that they never did. They purported to do so only in 2022 and it was not complete. So they came to court. The federal government didn't take them to court. And then we are saying that they have approached the court with dirty hands of non-compliance with the law. And then they are trying to restrain, they are asking for a perpetual injunction to restrain the Registrar of Trade Union from performing his statutory responsibilities. And we are saying that that cannot be. You cannot restrain the Registrar of Trade Unions from performing his duties as prescribed by law when you have not obeyed the same law.
The counsel to the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, Marshal Abubakar, among other things, applied for the matter to be referred to the arbitration center of the court in line with Section 254, subsection 3 of the court. The court also gave ASU 7 days to their addresses before adjourning to May 11.
We applied that two of the matters be referred to an arbitration. Now there's a provision under the law, Section 254, C, sub 3, which provides that where there are issues as pertains to trade disputes that the National Industrial Court has the jurisdiction to hear and determine. Such matters can be referred to the ADR center established by the National Industrial Court. So we put an application today to refer those matters to the arbitration center of the court. And the hearing or decisions on the particular application has been adjourned till tomorrow.
ASU had on 28th of March promised to call 3 witnesses at Tuesday's resumed hearing, but however opted for referral to the arbitration center. Noel Sampson, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Thank you, Noel Sampson, for that report. Now, security operatives in Kaduna State have launched an offensive against phone snatchers that have been terrorizing residents of the state. Police in a recent clampdown has raided hideouts of gangs of criminals, leading to the arrest of over 350 criminals within the capital and within the Kaduna metropolis and environs. Bello Musa completes the report.
The suspects arrested include the criminals locally known as Ensara Suka, whose crimes include stealing and snatching of mobile phones and threatening the lives of citizens. While addressing journalists in Kaduna, the police public relations officer, DSP Jalingi Mohammed, revealed that mobile phones, motorcycles, vehicles, various weapons, and over 1,700 kg of Indian hemp were recovered during the raid and arrest of the suspects.
The command has launched a serious manhunt on the criminals hibernating in some identified black spots within Kaduna metropolis and environs, following the outcry on the nefarious activities of these criminal elements. The gallant determination of our personnel has yielded a positive result with the arrest of over 350 suspects.
The State Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Arwan, said fund snatchers are threatening the lives of the citizens and government will not relent on its fight against gangsterism in the state.
You can see what they have cost us within the last few weeks. We have lost lives were lost. They have injured so many of our people with severe injuries. So we are appealing to members of the general public to help security agencies so that we can be able to contain this situation.
Some of the suspects regretted their actions and advised the youth to shun any form of crime and violence.
This
is my first time of being arrested and I regretted it. I will never go back to crime again. I have a bikeman that carries me within the metropolis. Whenever I see targets, I threaten them with a knife and collect their funds. I know my victims feel bad when I snatch their phone, but I enjoy spending the money I got from selling the phones. Recently, the activities of Sara Suka and fund snatching have been on the increase in the metropolis, the situation that becomes a source of worry for many residents. Bella Musa, Trust TV News, Kaduna.
All right, now, Kano State Police Command has vowed to employ all available resources towards identifying the drivers of crime escalation across the state. While addressing officers and men of the command, the newly posted Commissioner of Police, Muhammad Gumel, promised to lead the command on community partnership with robust intelligence gathering. Trust TV's correspondent Idris Dibrin reports.
Arriving the headquarters of Kano Command of the Nigeria Police Post in Bompai, CP Muhammad Gumel was received by the Deputy Police Commissioners and other senior officers of the command in Kano State. Back at the police officers' mates, the newly posted security sheriff for Kano met with the divisional police officers across the 44 local government areas of the state.
It will be my priority to drive the State Police Command on the pathway of improving the deployment of intelligence assets for the gathering of reliable evidence and application of the right technology in fighting all forms of criminal activity.
According to CP Gumel, there is no standalone agency that can claim the monopoly of providing efficient security. Hence, the need for all stakeholders to build a stronger synergy with all conventional security agencies across the states.
I have learned over the years that it is desirable for all police officers to always exhibit professionalism in the discharge of their duty. It makes the police institution more respected and their action acceptable to the community.
Community partnership, use of technology in tracking crime, community policing program as well as emergency response mechanism are some of the areas Police Command in Kano intends to focus its attention.
My vision is to build the Nigeria Police and the Police Command transparently, to build it on community partnership with both intelligence gathering, the use of the right technology, and to run proper friendly police with respect to fundamental human rights and freedom.
While seeking the support and cooperation of all stakeholders in Kano, the command warns that henceforth there will be no hiding place for phone snatchers, political thugs, and all other kinds of criminals in Kano State. Idris Jibrin, Trust TV News, Kano.
Thank you, Idris Jibrin, for that report. Now on to other issues. Mixed reactions have continued to trail the ban on Indomie special chicken flavor noodles by the National Agency for Food and Drugs Administration and Control, NAFDAC. NAFDAC decision followed the detection of ethylene oxide, a substance known to cause cancer, by the health authorities, health institution of Malaysia and Taiwan. In Jos, the Plateau State capital, residents are expressing divergent views on the development. Ado Musa completes the report for Trust TV.
Although NAFDAC is yet to conclude investigation into the Indomie noodles cancer issue, the outcome of the investigation by the two countries has raised concerns, considering the danger of the disease it causes. While some Jos residents are of the opinion that a ban on the importation of the product is not a welcome idea, some say the decision is a source of concern.
Indomie din nan dai naga kamar a kasan nan dai ake yin sa.
This Indomie has been in existence for almost 20 years, and NAFDAC has not been able to investigate and come out with such decision. To me, government hasn't tried because many may have died of cancer. NAFDAC should have done the investigation even before permitting us to be eating any food.
Ni dai ra'ayina akan wannan sanarwa da NAFDAC ta yi.
It is the duty of NAFDAC to be taking this kind of decision. It is clear to me that they are doing their job. It is their responsibility to be investigating all kinds of foods that we will be eating. They have realized that the Indomie would negatively affect our health. It is a welcome idea.
I'm happy
that NAFDAC is investigating the food. If it is discovered that eating such food is not good for our health, it is better that such should not be left in the market for people's consumption. The decision by Malaysia and Taiwan to recall Indomie special chicken flavor noodles has raised some concerns about the safety of the food globally, including Nigeria. Ado Musa, Trust TV News, Jos.
Well, this is not good news for noodle lovers, really, because for many of us, noodles have been saving lives since 1980s.
Only God knows how long. Yeah. And it appears as if almost every household has, they have it in their homes. Yeah. But then NAFDAC is saying that this particular brand is not in the country.
Yes.
And that most of the Indomie noodles consumed in Nigeria, that produced in Nigeria. So I guess in
any case, they also said that if anything of such should be in the country, then it must have been imported into the country. And importation of noodles is already banned in Nigeria. So they are saying something along the line of tightening and making sure that there is no importation of noodles into the country. And for the ones that are produced locally here in Nigeria, they are going to be conducting random
sampling on them to ensure
they will be taking random samples and investigate further to check, the veracity of this investigation.
I hope they come up with a verdict very soon, because I think a lot of people are a bit worried. They don't know whether they should continue taking the noodles in their homes or they should just abandon them at this point.
Well, I'm not sure if I'm abandoning my noodles. But let's move on to other things. We'll take a short breather now, and then when we return, we'll get our guest reviewer to talk about some of the stories on the front pages of our newspapers this morning. Join us again.
documenting the Nigerian story.
Where you find
not necessarily tribal or regional.
All right, thank you for staying. It's Daybreak on Trust TV, reaching you from the nation's capital. Time to take a look at the dailies on Daybreak, and we'll begin with the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. The lead story here says, Senate presidency, Akpabio, Yari, scramble for PDP senators. It has the riders, opposition reps elect meet, strategize to produce speaker. You'd find also APC, NWC meet today. All that on page 4 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Yesterday, we saw the pictorial of the commissioning, President Muhammadu Buhari commissioning the 748 units of Federal Housing Authority estate in Zuba, Abuja, and that's the pictures there you are seeing. Also, above the lead story, Sudan crisis, first batch of stranded Nigerians may return today. On page 24, reps hold $700 million cabotage fund disbursement. Summon Nimasa DG. And that's also on page 19. How Sheyi Tinubu bought London mansion for $10.8 million, according to a report. You find details of that on page 3. And then below the pictorial, 2 months after elections, customs officers yet to get allowances. On page 25. Suspended Adama Reg arrested. You'd find that on page 10. Government not responsible for job creation. And that's according to the presidential spokesperson, Femi Adesina. You also have the details on page 3. 27 days to hand over. Tambuwal appoints 23 PAMSECs, 15 DGs. And that's on page 6. These are the top stories on the front cover of Daily Trust this morning.
Now let's take a look at the Punch newspaper. It has a lead story that says Tinubu's victory. Legal battle begins Monday as tribunal hears petitions. And the first rider says APC expresses readiness, says it is aware of hearing date. And the second rider, PDP Atiku will emerge victorious, legal team tells Nigerians. And beneath that, we have a pictorial of apparently the luggage of Nigerian students stranded at the border. And we have a caption that says, and beneath that, we have evacuated Nigerians stranded at Egypt border. Biamila orders probe. We also have 792 Nigerians abducted in first quarter report. This is according to a report. Ogun Rep-elect activists clash in traffic over broken car mirror. We also have, I have delivered on change agenda. This is coming from the president. And above the masthead, external debt. Federal government deducts 78 billion naira from state allocations. Controversial Adamawa reg detained, insists Binani won poll. We also have deadly noodles. NAFDAC takes probe to factories, markets. These are the major stories on the Punch newspaper for today.
All right, now let's take a look at the Nation newspaper this morning. The lead story there says Adamawa police quiz detain reg INEC commissioners. You have above the masthead 57.4 million BVNs linked to bank accounts. And that's on page. You also have the rider that says 7,500 under watch list. Obi admits making phone call to Oyedepo. My UK airport experience. You find the details on page 5. NSIA launches firm to deliver healthcare expansion plan. Zenith Bank's shareholders get 100.47 naira dividend. You also have other stories. First batch of Nigerians expected from Sudan today. Senate probes passport renewal issuance delay. These are the main stories on the Nation newspaper this morning.
Now let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper. It has a lead story that says Senate presidency negotiations, intense lobbying among contenders as NWC meets. And then we have a pictorial there that shows there's the seat of the Senate president in the red chamber. And beside that, we have some of the top contenders for the position. And beneath that, we have CBN places 7,552 account holders on BVN watch list. We also have funds to demolish more illegal houses around airports nationwide. Tinubu's $10.8 million London mansion, buying property under investigation, risky, lawyers say. We have 7 years on Enugu government transfers diagnostic center to NSIA. Beneath that, Fintry Hills arrest of fleeing Adamawa wreck 2 weeks after. We also have crisis rocks appear assembly as members impeach speaker. And just above that, Sudan crisis, lawmakers summon Onyema, Dabiri, NEMA officials. These are the major stories on the Guardian newspaper.
All right, now let's take a look at the Vanguard newspaper this morning for some more stories. The lead story says, no regrets declaring Binani winner, says Adamawa Rek. It has police arrest, grill him in Abuja. Investigations continue. Other officials fingered under interrogation. I didn't collect 2 billion naira bribe. Yunusa Ari says that bribe allegation, social media hype. You also have above the masthead, Buhari OK's partial exclusion of Finance Ministry from TSA. Zenith Bank's shareholders approve 100.47 billion naira dividend. World Press Freedom Day. NGE task incoming government on safety of journalists. Oshibajo, symbol of national unity, says Buhari. Go on, governors, others. Well, you have other stories above. CBN to audit e-payment system. Watch list 572 bank customers. Other stories, Abia Assembly boils as two speakers emerge. Ekwere Madu, temper justice with mercy. Reps, ECOWAS Parliament urge UK government. Sudan, second batch of Nigerian evacuees arrive Port Sudan. NSIA launches 2 companies to deliver health care plan. You have also, despite NWC's intervention, APC insists on suspension of National Vice Chair and Secretary. These are the main stories on the Vanguard newspaper this morning. Well, this is the last one, so let's get perspectives to some of the stories that we are looking at this morning. We have Ben Sherman, the former Director of News, Voice of Nigeria, with us here in the studio. First of all, I'll say Happy World Press Freedom Day, if there's anything like that.
Well, at least Nigeria has that freedom of the press, almost to a fault, because situations where you can call the president any name,
yes.
In some other countries it is forbidden. It's like a god, a demigod somewhere that you cannot. But in Nigeria, we describe the president, we say all sorts of things.
All right.
I think there is freedom in Nigeria.
Well, we will discuss that, and that's arguable, is debatable, because I'm sure that when you meet some other people, share their experiences, they will tell you that freedom is not there. But let's talk about what's before us this morning. Yesterday, we saw several appeals. We saw appeal by the House of Representatives and the ECOWAS Parliament for the UK government, or the UK judiciary, to temper justice with mercy, calling for prerogative of mercy to be invoked in his case and in his matter, even as we await the final, sentencing on the 5th of May.
Yeah, that's in 2 days.
In 2 days' time. So there's a lot of call. We saw that Vanguard is taking that story. You could hear one of the lawmakers yesterday in the House of Reps almost moving to tears while he was making that, while he was moving for that motion. What do you make of what has happened, really?
Yeah, I think that it is right for some people to cry for clemency on behalf of the former Senate President and his family. Here we are, a man trying to save his own daughter's life, and as someone volunteering, but at the point some people say it went bad, it was not handled well, and that it is against the British law, a kind of. So we expect that with this plea, former President Obasanjo actually started it, and I think that the president-elect, President Buhari too, bearing in mind that they are always friends of London or 10 Downing Street, I think that it is time that they join in the cry to ensure that Okweremadu gets, the Okweremadus get some soft landing. Yes, they ran foul of the law, but there should be some way out of this, so that it serves as deterrent. And if actually it is passed, they're going to spend 10 years in jail.
Do you think that it's possible that, even if they insist on punishing them, they could send them to Nigeria to serve their term out instead of actually staying there?
It's possible, but so far, in terms of either prisoner swap or carrying prisoners from London to come and end their sentences back home, it's always a wishful kind of a thing. It is there in some of the agreements, but it has not come to truism. It's not been practiced yet. But if this is going to be the thing, sometimes what is being done is, well over there, many people do not really know that such and such a person is a prisoner. But when you now bring him back to the country, the thing is to further bring psychological trauma to the person, to the loved ones, and to community. Those days, till when Nigeria was doing firing, of armed robbers on stake, you tie them and fire, they would take them to the village of origin so that they tell the parents, teach your people the correct way, or your children the correct way. They tell would-be criminals within the society, see what has happened to so person from your community. If you do that, it's going to, that is going to be your own destination too. But again, has that changed robbery in the country? You know, you keep on hanging people. Has that stopped those criminality? And that's why in some developed worlds, criminals who are prisoners, because we want to reform them. We're no longer even calling it prison service. We're talking of a kind of reform, reform the person so that he becomes a good person in society. For the Ekoromadus, I think they deserve some clemency.
Okay, but what are the lessons here really for, Nigerians, for politicians, elites, everyone? What are the lessons that could be learned from this?
Yeah, the lessons, we also need to have our own hospitals, well equipped to handle cases like the one the Ekoromadus have gone to handle in London. If we are saying we're running short of the experts to handle that, can we bring the equipment here? If you have consultants who will come from London, spend 2 weeks and do some job and go back, after all, how much is it by flight to go to London? If you compare that leaving Murtala Mohammed Airport to VI, you spend sometimes 5 hours, 6 hours to reach VI. It's the same the time you fly from Abuja to London or fly from Lagos to London. So if these people can come, spend some a week or two in Nigeria and carry out these operations. I mean, like this studio, it's all about equipment. If you bring the necessary equipment, the experts will come in. And by the time they come in, by way of transfer of knowledge, the Nigerians who are in the country here will be attached doing these operations, and you see that we'll be somewhere.
And but, especially now that all of this is going on, nobody even knows what is happening to the daughter who, who is actually sick.
Exactly, and that's the more reason why the media, I think they should pay attention to the daughter too. Even though some will say she's already sick, why would you want to bring her to limelight? But at the point, you see, you can use her as a kind of a means of wooing and ensuring sympathy. I remember when the war in Sierra Leone was on, there was a summit on how to resolve the crisis there. Tijan Kaba came in here to our ECOWAS headquarters here. What did he do? His own campaign tool to ensure, sympathy is being obtained. He brought a baby whose hands were amputated, a baby of about 2 years. So what does this baby know about the conflict? Yet that baby was amputated by the rebels, just the way they did to Anyele of Nigeria, Ebuna of Nigeria. I still remember them because I had reasons to interview them that time. So when you bring a baby, a helpless person that way, it invokes pity. Because they are always the vulnerable targets. So in this case, why is Ekweremadu's daughter behind the scene? Sometimes you bring her into the front burner and you just see her, there's the need for us to bring humanity to the fore so that she's also saved. And that is why I think that people should bring her on board. Let it not sound as if she's relaxing in one hotel and one other Ikemefuna, in quote, was taken there to salvage her, as if that person too does not have life. But if that runs far of the British law, then we'll look at our own law. What does it say? If the law permits this kind of transplant, Let us simply have the hospitals here. We have people who indeed, many Nigerians who have who are abroad, they are doing very, very well. Before you cut me short, I still remember a Nigerian doctor from UI here. He left to America, and when a baby, a fetus, was found in a woman who had a brain tumor, a fetus, and the fetus, then they said, look, how do we handle this? The guy said, I'll bring this out, operate her, send her back, and normal birth would be done. And that was done. That's the baby today, they say, born twice. From womb, you came to the world, and you are sent back to the womb, and you are delivered normally. That can only come from a Nigerian. Did Obama celebrate that man? Did Nigeria celebrate him? So these are people we can also bring in when situations warrant, and they show their expertise.
Goes back to fixing our own healthcare system.
Exactly.
Really. And that's what some of the arguments that people have made, that if we have worked on our own medical system here in Nigeria, perhaps there wouldn't have been any need for this to happen. But let's move on to other stories. We are also seeing that the suspended Adama Rek has now been arrested by the Nigerian police. Prior to that, he granted an interview where he said that he has no regrets for declaring Aisha Binani as governor in Adamawa State, despite all the illegalities that have been said to have been done according to the electoral umpire.
Now, you see, that case is like, I say, like the story of the madman. Who? He saw houses being burned over there. They said, come, you set up this fire. He said, no, I only set up the fire here. I didn't tell it to go to the other side. In other words, when you, see, he was setting up this country aflame with that singular act. You know it, the law does not permit you at all. The law does not permit you. The fact that you are a nurse and you go constantly to the operation theater. Now somebody is to be operated, the doctor is not there. He just handled the instruments and started operating. Now I've been watching the doctor. It does not.
So, Mr. Chairman, all of this time, I've imagined that he knew what the law said. But at this point, he's still insisting that he was right. And as a matter of fact, one of the papers said he insisted he has no regrets, and then he insisted that Binani won. So why do you think he's insisting if he indeed knows what the law says?
He knows what the law says, but the thing is, he's challenging this same law. And of course, he's going to be a friend of the law. If he knew he did everything right, why was it that when the police were looking for him, he did not go to the police to say, here I am?
But was it really
so
missing?
much pressure. There was so much pressure. I mean, what is being missing? If you are in the motor park and they are looking for you somewhere, of course you are missing legally. You are legally. But when you surrender, you turn yourself in, of course, you know you are wanted. And when you are declared wanted, your name is at stake. And so it's for him to go there. And in fact, I expected that right from that level. When a man, a returning officer will sit down, invite every press, and say, this is the time, and they'll all be there. You now announce with figures. But this man, it was even when the security operatives had, they got up to walk out of the venue, that he stood up before microphones.
This incident happened on the 16th because the supplementary election held on the 15th. Why did it take so long before the police could have arrested?
It takes so long because also the police, at the point they were doing a kind of a seesaw game. For them to say INEC has not written a formal complaint for him to be arrested. I mean, right from the point of declaring that unwholesome, that unwanted, that miscalculated result, I think he ought to have been arrested right from there, before the policemen or civil defense guys that were there. That guy wanted to cause mayhem to society, and thank God INEC renounced, rejected him, and simply said, come, What you have done is a nullity, is illegal, it's null and void. It cannot hold water. You only simply fetch water in a basket, so it won't hold anything. It's to no effect. And that is why today he has to account for those actions. Who indeed helped you? When you say you didn't collect billions, okay, or billion, okay, was it that there is something in that place? At the point you say, infantry didn't give me money, oh, Binani didn't give me money. All these things, they say a lot about your personage. It says a lot about you, your family, your courage, your career, and of course, when some people are saying, look, you are fasting, Muslims are fasting, and you are engaged in this thing between you and Allah. Is this thing being done correctly? And if you are insisting, well, there are always two punishments. You have the one here on earth in Nigeria and the one hereafter. So it's for the law here to determine. He's insisting he did the correct thing. So, well, we wait to see what the law will say. And we also wait, whatever God says, it has to be himself and his creator.
All right. There's this story here on the Daily Trust newspaper where they said it reads thus: government not responsible for job creation presidency. Actually, it was the presidential spokesman Femi Adesina who spoke on an interview on a television station yesterday, where he insisted that the government was not responsible for job creation. In fact, he was asked the question that the government said they were going to create 3 million jobs, and he said no, that he didn't think there was any figure put on job creation. But he went further to say something. As much as he tried to, let the government off the hook, he said that what government was supposed to do was provide enabling environment to allow the private sector provide these jobs. So now let's imagine that it's not the job of the government. Do we have an enabling environment for job creation in Nigeria?
You see, sometimes Femi Adesina, we worked together even in the State House. He was my president, Guild of Editors. But sometimes it's like he talks on both sides of the mouth. Sometimes we also talk, without weighing the ripple effect. I remember when there were crises in southern Kaduna, farmers had us. For a presidential head spokesman, what did he say? Why are you sticking on to that land when you can surrender it and survive? Just check and see. Google it, you see. At that point, you are helping to give the president a bad name. Here we are again. It's not the job of the government to give jobs. You see, who employed him? It's government. But when you look at the general, you look at it holistically, yes, it is government that must do what? Create the enabling environment. Where is people want to invest in agriculture. You have farmers herders clashes. Did government create enabling environment in that order? President Buhari said we'll stop importation of rice. Good thing. So that many Nigerians will be employed in the farms. Now, yes, we are seeing Nigerian rice, but when you look at the farmers' herders clashes again, it is a problem. Then you look at electricity.
So yes, just to chip in here, that yes, we've seen Nigerian rice in the markets. At what cost, really?
It's not any cheaper, if you ask me.
At what cost? Because that's one other issue. So it still goes back to the issue of cost of production. Farmers will go to the farms, even though with this security issue, many of them are now unable to go as many as will be desired. But even the ones that are able to go and produce and eventually get to the market, cost of production and processing this rice is still a major issue. Issue of energy is still a major issue. So we see inflation, food inflation skyrocketing, and the rest of them.
I agree.
So do we really have that environment?
Yeah, the environment is still lacking so much in many areas. Now, if you look at the electricity thing, because it is just not there. Many, the welders, they can't do some work. You go to even the same government work, they can't function properly because there is no electricity. You go to hospitals where they're supposed to have some operations, you see that they're putting the government electricity supply on standby, and what are they using? Generators. When the government says we'll provide security, and they said the police will going to ensure that every year we take 10,000 recruits. We're not talking of officers. Did they do that? You see Police Service Commission taking the IG to court, and up to now they are in court. We expect that Arase, okay, has come. What is going to be the thing that will change? We expect that you give the environment, the working environment, see the environment that we have. Today, see the tree felling. The forests have been depleted. All, take Kaduna route. You just see people now selling charcoal. Kerosene is so hard to get and very, very costly if finally you get. Say, we're having gas flaring when indeed we're supposed to be employing Nigerians to handle some of these things. What are we having? Firewood here and there. Now, you compare that with the number of students being churned out by universities. When you see convocation being done, man, look at from NYC, that gives you the array, the population being churned out to the unemployment market. Now, you move to colleges of education, you move to polytechnics, you now come to secondary school, you come to monotechnics too, because they all churn out. Even primary school today, that's why you see some boys as small as whatever. Go, you see them doing welding, learning mechanic. So the environment that is supposed to be there is really not so much available. Okay. And here in FCT, you continue pursuing these informal sector people hawking, people having some shops here and there, mechanics are being pushed here and there, markets are being demolished. So where is this environment? Okay. I think that governments should rework some of these things, and the incoming government, please look at this security thing and insecurity, so that the largest employment market, agriculture. Okay.
All right. Because of time, let's quickly look at the another story that we have here. It says it's about the Sudan crisis. It says first batch of stranded Nigerians may return today. So we are hopeful that they will be returning, but this comes after days of toiling at the borders, and in fact, for some of them, it's still uncertain as to how many more days they will have to stay there for them to, get back to the country. What's your assessment of how we have handled the process of evacuating Nigerians from Sudan?
I love that expression. First batch may return. The key word is may. It's a model verb. It's a kind of auxiliary verb. It's assisting the return. So you are not saying have returned, may return.
You're not saying will return.
Exactly. Now, why has it taken this long? Even Ukraine has since gone and taken their citizens. Ukraine. Russia has done same. Are we talking about America? They all landed there. Is it Turkey? They all landed there. If we are the giant of Africa, let it be. Those days when I was a State House correspondent, and we had to do some state visits with General Abdul Salami that time. When he was always meeting with Nigerian community, you find people requesting, sir, it is hard here. Some of us want to go back home, even to get money to buy tickets, to get money and carry our loads we don't have. And what will he do? We're sending in the C-130 Hercules plane. The Air Force was involved, and they go and evacuate them. Now, why is it that the Air Force is not being used today? It's only in Nigeria.
No, the Air Force aircraft is in Egypt. Yes. Just that our people are unable to get into Egypt.
Good. And only in Nigeria that you hear that one of the buses caught fire. I don't really understand. What's this misfortune that is always around us? What is happening? And this crisis, we have not yet looked at the security angle to it. Sudan is close to Libya. If President Buhari has always been saying that the arms we have in here, that Boko Haram, ISWAP, and these terrorists are using, they are mostly from Libya. Now Libya is next to Sudan, border-wise. Now, if you leave Sudan, you enter Central African Republic. Next is Cameroon and Chad. Chad again is a border for smuggling, international. Then from Libya, you enter Chad. And the point of convergence is around Gambolungala and Gamborungala. The place is Fotakol. Just after one bridge like this. We went there with General Buratai those days, and they interpreted the maps. So you have, yes, presence of soldiers there, and we expect that at this point, chiefs of defense of countries around these areas, the multinational joint task force should be up and doing now, because we don't know the consequences yet. We spoke about the madman who will set fire here, and the wind will carry it to the other town. He will say, I set my fire here, I didn't say it should go to that place. We should begin to interpret this situation. What is it? Any good omen for us, any bad omen for us? The security agencies should be on top of the game. And we expect the National Assembly give them the money. And when the president approves, please let finance, audit, release this money. Because every single bullet fired is dollars.
All right, thank you so much. Well, thank you, Ben Sherman, the former director of news, for joining us on Daybreak and giving us your perspectives on the trending stories at the moment.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Well, we'll take a short breather now, and then when we return, top of the hour, we'll take a look at the headlines and our discussion of the day. Join us again.
But in a situation where you find that they must look like the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
Now, as part of efforts to support Africa's goal of strengthening...
Now, looking at the activity chart, as you can see right here, a total volume of 130.
Created a Boko Haram crisis that at that time was restricted to Yobe.
How secure are they? You can see security men with blood.
This is the road leading up to the...
Already, if you look at English squad, you are looking at EPL, you are looking at their names. You are not looking at...
welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. You're watching Daybreak on Trust TV, and if you're just joining, we are an hour into the show already, so let's take a run down of the headlines for you again. My administration protected rights of journalists. That's according to President Muhammadu Buhari on World Press Freedom Day.
2 months after elections, custom officers yet to get allowances.
National Assembly raises judicial officers' retirement age to 70 years.
Now let's take a look at the details. President Muhammadu Buhari has said his administration protected the rights of journalists in his 8 years in office. Commenting on this year's theme, shaping a future of rights, freedom of expression as a driver for all other human rights, President Buhari, in a release issued on Tuesday to mark this year's World Press Freedom Day, said his administration has kept the faith by ensuring that Nigerian journalists have had unfettered freedom to practice their art. The president charged media professionals to continue to be patriotic, work for the cohesion of the country, and exercise their freedom with a high deal of responsibility.
Now, officers of the Nigeria Customs Service have expressed dissatisfaction over the non-payment of their election allowances 2 months after the 2023 general elections. The Nigeria Immigration Service had made similar complaints in March, even though investigations revealed that some of them were later paid last month.
The Senate on Tuesday directed the clerk to the National Assembly to transmit a constitution alteration bill number 20 to President Muhammadu Buhari for assent in line with the provisions of the Authentication Act. The bill seeks to ensure uniformity in retirement age and pensions right of judicial officers of superior courts of record. It extends the retirement age from 65 years to 70 years.
All right, now, some of the packages this morning. The National Industrial Court has fixed May 11 for the continuation of hearing on the legality of the strike embarked upon by the Academic Staff Union of Universities on the 25th of February 2022. The president of the National Industrial Court of Nigeria, Justice Benedict Kanyib, who presided over the case, gave the ruling on Tuesday in Abuja. Noel Samson reports.
Issues deliberated during resumed hearing of the 360 suit were those of the legality of the strike action which the federal government considers illegal, as well as the order that the lecturers having embarked on an illegal strike are not entitled to payment during the said period. The federal government is also asking the court not to grant the university's lecturers the request to use the preferred platform for salary payment when, according to government, the platform failed integrity tests. Counsel to the federal government, James Igwe, also made reference to the failure of ASU to file their annual returns beginning from 2014, as well as the teacher gross with the registration of Kunwa and Namdas.
Several years beginning from 2014, ASU never filed their annual returns. The law says you should, as a trade union, before the 1st of June of every year, file your annual returns, but records show that they never did. They purported to do so only in 2022 and it was not complete. So they came to court. The federal government didn't take them to court. And then we are saying that they have approached the court with dirty hands of non-compliance with the law. And then they are trying to restrain, they are asking for a perpetual injunction to restrain the Registrar of Trade Union from performing his statutory responsibilities. And we are saying that that cannot be. You cannot restrain the Registrar of Trade Unions from performing his duties as prescribed by law when you have not obeyed the same law.
The counsel to the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, Marshal Abubakar, among other things, applied for the matter to be referred to the arbitration center of the court in line with Section 254, subsection 3 of the court. The court also gave ASU 7 days to their addresses before adjourning to May 11.
We applied that two of the matters be referred to an arbitration. Now there's a provision under the law, Section 254, C, sub 3, which provides that where there are issues as pertains to trade disputes that the National Industrial Court has the jurisdiction to hear and determine, such matters can be referred to the ADR center established by the National Industrial Court. So we put an application today to refer those matters to the arbitration center of the court, and the hearing or decisions on the particular application has been adjourned till tomorrow.
ASUAD on 28th of March promised to call 3 witnesses at Tuesday's resumed hearing, but however opted for referral to the arbitration center. Noel Samson, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Thank you for that. Now, security operatives in Kaduna State are launching offensive activities against phone snatchers that have been terrorizing residents of the state. Police in a recent clampdown raided hideouts of gangs of criminals, leading to the arrest of over 350 criminals within the Kaduna metropolis and environs. Bello Musa completes the report for Trust TV.
The suspects arrested include the criminals locally known as Ensara Suka, whose crimes include stealing and snatching of mobile phones and threatening the lives of citizens. While addressing journalists in Kaduna, the police public relations officer, DSP Jalingi Mohammed, revealed that mobile phones, motorcycles, vehicles, various weapons, and over 1,700 kg of Indian hemp were recovered during the raid and arrest of the suspects.
The command has launched a serious manhunt on the criminals hibernating in some identified black spots within Kaduna metropolis and environs, following the outcry on the nefarious activities of these criminal elements. The gallant determination of our personnel has yielded a positive result with the arrest of over 350 suspects.
The State Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Arwan, said phone snatchers are threatening the lives of the citizens and government will not relent on its fight against gangsterism in the state.
You can see what they have cost us within the last few weeks. We have lost lives were lost. They have injured so many of our people with severe injuries. So we are appealing to members of the general public to help security agencies so that we can be able to contain this situation.
Some of the suspects regretted their actions and advised the youth to shun any form of crime and violence.
This is my first time of being arrested and I regretted it. I will never go back to crime again. I have a bikeman that carries me within the metropolis. Whenever I see targets, I threaten them with a knife and collect their phones. I know my victims feel bad when I snatch their phone, but I enjoy spending the money I got from selling the phones.
Recently, the activities of Sara Suka and phone snatching have been on the increase in the metropolis, the situation that becomes a source of worry for many residents. Bello Musa, Trust TV News, Kaduna.
All right, now, similarly, Kano State Police Command has vowed to employ all available resources towards identifying the drivers of crime escalation across the state. While addressing officers and men of the command, the newly posted Commissioner of Police, Mohammed Gumel, promised to lead the command on community partnership with robust intelligence gathering. Idris Jibril reports.
Arriving the headquarters of Kano Command of the Nigeria Police Post in Bompai, CP Mohammed Gumel was received by the Deputy Police Commissioners and other senior officers of the command in Kano State. Back at the police officers' mates, the newly posted security sheriff for Kano met with the divisional police officers across the 44 local government areas of the state.
It will be my priority to drive the State Police Command on the pathway of improving the deployment of intelligence assets for the gathering of reliable evidence and application of the right technology in fighting all forms of criminal activity.
According to CP Gumel, there is no standalone agency that can claim the monopoly of providing efficient security. Hence, the need for all stakeholders to build a stronger synergy with all conventional security agencies across the states.
I have learned over the years that it is desirable for all police officers to always exhibit professionalism in the discharge of their duty. It makes the police institution more respected and their action acceptable to the community.
Community partnership, use of technology in tracking crime, community policing program as well as emergency response mechanism are some of the areas Police Command in Kano intends to focus its attention.
My vision is to build the Nigeria Police and the Police Command transparently, to build it on community partnership with robust intelligence gathering, the use of the right technology, and run proper friendly police with respect to fundamental human rights and freedom.
While seeking the support and cooperation of all stakeholders in Kano, the command warns that henceforth there will be no hiding place for phone snatchers, political thugs, and all other kinds of criminals in Kano State. Idris Jubrin, Trust TV News, Kano.
All right, now away from Kano State. Mixed reactions have continued to trail the ban on Indomie special chicken flavor noodles by the National Agency for Food and Drugs Administration and Control, NAFDAC. NAFDAC decision followed the detection of ethylene oxide, a substance known to cause cancer, by the health institutions of Malaysia and Taiwan. In Jos, the Plateau State capital, residents are expressing divergent views on the development. Adomusa completes the report for us.
Although NAFDAC is yet to conclude investigation into the Indomie noodles cancer issue, the outcome of the investigation by the two countries has raised concerns, considering the danger of the disease it causes. While some Jos residents are of the opinion that a ban on the importation of the product is not a welcome idea, some say the decision is a source of concern.
Indomie din nan dai naga kamar a kasan nan dai ake yin sa.
This Indomie has been in existence for almost 20 years, and NAFDAC has not been able to investigate and come out with such decision. To me, government hasn't tried because many may have died of cancer. NAFDAC should have done the investigation even before permitting us to be eating any food.
Ni dai ra'ayina akan wannan sanarwa da NAFDAC ta yi.
It is the duty of NAFDAC to be taking this kind of decision. It is clear to me that they are doing their job. It is their responsibility to be investigating all kinds of foods that we will be eating. They have realized that the Indomie would negatively affect our health. It is a welcome idea.
I'm happy
that NAFDAC is investigating the food. If it is discovered that eating such food is not good for our health, it is better that such should not be left in the market for people's consumption. The decision by Malaysia and Taiwan to recall Indomie special chicken flavor noodles has raised some concerns about the safety of the food globally, including Nigeria. Ado Musa, Trust TV News, Jos.
All right, thank you so much, Ado Musa, for that report. We'll take a short breather now, and then when we return, we'll have our discussion on the World Press Freedom Day. Join us again.
documenting the Nigerian story.
Okay, welcome back from that break. This is Daybreak on Trust TV, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. For some who may be wondering, the show is now 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. and not 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. as it has always been before. So let's take a look at our issue of the day, World Press Freedom Day. Now, May 3rd is World Press Freedom Day. This year, we mark the 30th year of this UN International Day. This year's theme, as defined by UNESCO, is shaping a future of rights, freedom of expression as a driver for all other human rights. Press freedom and reliable information globally is everyone's concern and has impact on all the other human rights. Now, in the last 3 decades, World Press Freedom Day celebrations have taken everybody on a journey, giving prominence to the right to free expression and emphasizing various aspects of press freedom's importance. However, in the face of multiple crises, media freedom, journalist safety, and freedom of expression, as well as other human rights, are increasingly under attack. Being our day as journalists, we have no better person to talk about this than the president, that's the national president of the Nigerian Union of Journalists. He is Comrade Chris Isiguzo, who joins us virtually. And also we still have in the studio the former director of News Voice of Nigeria, Ben Sheman, to give perspectives to issues arising from this day. Thank you so much for joining us, Comrade Chris. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us, really. Well, let's begin with maybe some sort of retrospection on this day and how journalists have fared over the years. Perhaps if we could reduce it to maybe in the last 4 years.
Well, once again, thank you for having me. Today is World Press Freedom Day, and it is the 30th anniversary. So for 3 decades, from 1993, when this was declared by the United Nations General Assembly, the world has been marking, this day. And what are the key issues around this day? Is an opportunity for us to celebrate fundamental principles of press freedom. It is also an opportunity to evaluate the state of press freedom across the world. It's also an opportunity to remind government of its obligation, its commitment to press freedom. It's also an opportunity where we rise in defense of attacks on the independence of the media. And it's also an opportunity to pay tribute to journalists who have lost their lives in the line of duty. So if you look at all these critical elements of the World Press Freedom Day, you can now situate our position, especially as Nigerians, how far and how well we have fared. When we look at press freedom, it involves a whole lot. It comes with so many features. You talk about economic freedom. You talk about independence.
All right. Unfortunately, we're having the glitches there. We hope to reconnect back to Chris so that he can continue with his thoughts on this special day. Well, but we still have Ben Sheman in the studio. Ben Sheman, if you may, talk to us about the journey so far for Nigerian journalists, to be specific. All these years that we've been celebrating or commemorating World Press Freedom Day, has there been any I would say improvement in terms of freedom of the press?
In terms of freedom of the press, yes, there are improvements. However, there are also some areas of concern. Improvement as per when you're talking of the liberty itself. The freedom to even set up a media organization, set up and on, propagate an idea, inform people, you have it. There are improvements.
Is that freedom expressed, the freedom to set up? Because we see in some instances that the registration fee is usually very high. So isn't that a problem?
Yeah, you see, if you have the capability, you can buy an aeroplane. If you have, you buy a ship. Therefore, if you have the capability to own a media organization, provided you can bring in the equipment, provided you can employ, not just employ, you must sustain the workers by giving them their welfare. Because you cannot just have a media organization and yours is to use it to attack some agencies, attack some government, attack some individuals, but you can use it to make society better. And how do you make it society better? You also enhance the workers in that organization to ensure that they work for the betterment of society. And of course, the laws are always there. Yeah, when you say, is it better? Before now, we didn't have Freedom of Information Act.
Okay.
Stella, this Freedom of Information Act enables you to go to your local government and ask the chairman, look, armed with this, I want to know the allocation given to you.
Yes, but
did you receive?
To what extent does that work in reality?
To what extent does that work?
It could be argued that this is just on paper. It's only academic.
Yes, you see, the law is there. It enables every Nigerian, not just journalists. So it's now.
But how accessible, even with the freedom of information, how accessible is this? Information.
I would rather say, to what extent do Nigerians seize the opportunity to use this freedom of information?
Okay, perhaps let's go back to Chris, who we've been able to reconnect with. Maybe he can give us a perspective from that. Our guest in the studio is talking about freedom of information. Perhaps where you stand, you've been able to access some information on account of the FOI.
Well, one thing we must know clearly is that the Freedom of Information Act is not a media act. It is a law that is open to every Nigerian. And while you look at press freedom from the availability of the Freedom of Information Act, I also want you to look at other existing legal frameworks. You look at the Cybercrime Act. To what extent has it helped to encourage press freedom? In fact, if you go to the details, the nitty-gritty of that act, you'll be wondering why journalists are still walking freely in the streets in Nigeria. Because that act in itself, it is a no-no. It is completely out of it. And efforts must be sustained, made by media stakeholders to ensure that that act, or the Cybercrime Prohibition Act, is repealed, because it does not in any way encourage press freedom. It's so sad that the fact that people are opening media houses has now been categorized as one of the fruits of press freedom in Nigeria. It's sad. Now, the same people that are opening media houses left, right, and center are not able to pay journalists. Like I was trying to give us a rundown of issues around press freedom. You talk about economic freedom. To what extent are journalists economically free to apply their trade? We talk about very, very poor remuneration for journalists. You are paid what is not commensurate with what you put in. Is that part of the way or ways of encouraging press freedom? Even those that are paid, very little distance, they are epileptically paid. People are owed 6 months. People are owed 8 months. It does not in any way encourage press freedom. Now we are looking at an array of politicians that have come into the media space, and they now own media houses. They own newspapers, print media, they own a radio station and television stations and what have you. And these people have their own, may not be defined, but they censor what comes out of the content that they dish out of those platforms. This does not in any way encourage, press freedom, because it is said that whoever pays the piper dictates the tune. That brings us to the issue of ownership of media houses. Now we're talking about press freedom. We are witnessing every day the incessant interference by the regulator. Today, the National Broadcasting Commission, the fear of National Broadcasting Commission is the beginning of wisdom for media practice in Nigeria. There is nothing you will do that they will not find fault. They are clamping down on media houses, radio stations, and television stations with fines every other day. They no longer allow people to express themselves. Today, we are celebrating World Press Freedom Day with the team shaping a future of rights. And that team also looks at press freedom as the key driver for all other rights. So whatever you are doing, if you're talking about fundamental human rights and the array of them, if there is nothing like press freedom, if it is not totally, not 99.9%, if it is not totally guaranteed, then every other right is in jeopardy. That is the clear thing.
Okay.
So it is
Chris, can there really be absolute right? You talk about total freedom, right? Can there be absolute freedom really for the press? Because it appears as if there is some kind of abuse of those rights by some, and even in the space. So can we really talk about absolute freedom?
Well, anyway, I must tell you that I agree with you that in every 12 there must be a renegade. It's natural, and that is why at the level of stakeholders, Nigerian Press Organization, NPO, which has Nigerian Union of Journalists, the Nigerian Guild of Editors, Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria, Guild of Corporate Online Publishers, and others. We came together and we felt that we must find ways of more like a balance in the whole thing. Yes, you may not have what is completely absolute because there will be people that may want to go out of the line. Today we have the National Media Complaints Commission, the National Ombudsman, which we have put in place, which is more like a co-regulation. If you recall, quite recently, maybe last year or thereabout, the National Assembly, especially the House of Representatives, came up with about 3 bills. One, the bill was seeking to review the Nigerian Press Council Act. Of course, we have another one, which was also going to review the National Broadcasting Commission Act, and another one. And we felt that if we allow these bills to pass through, that we are going to have a major challenge in our hands as far as press freedom is concerned. In fact, press freedom was going to be put in the pigeonhole. We were completely lost. And we said, no, we are not going to allow that. And government came up with the issue of that. They were looking for a way of regulating the industry. And we felt that as it is practiced in other countries, especially Ghana that is very close to us here, and some other countries around us, you allow the practitioners, the professionals to regulate themselves. And that's why we came up with the National Media Complaints Commission, which is our own form of co-regulation. We have the Nigerian Bar Association there. We have, of course, the media eggheads there. We have the civil society organization and all that. We brought them together so that they'll be able to look at some of these infractions, some of these issues that come up in the course of these parties, and give a roadmap. And as a body, we have also reviewed or revised the Code of Ethics, which was last revised in 1998. This way, we'll be able to check activities of practitioners across the realm. And in that revised document, we also have Bill of Rights, because when you dish out instructions to the journalists, you as a proprietor, you should also have some level of law that will control your own activities. That we have done.
All right, Comrade Isiguzo, I've listened to you and I've looked at the steps that the NUJ is taking to see how the media can regulate itself. Now, the thing is this, the media practitioners are not just people who just appeared on the scene. What they do is captured in the Constitution, Section 39, subsection 2, empowers them to do what they do. And it therefore means that with that empowerment means that if they violate the law, there are steps that can be taken to address it. But what we see in most instances is that a state actor doesn't like a particular story by a media organization, and then there's a clamp down on that media organization, sometimes using the military personnel and all of that. How do you think that can be addressed instead of, seeking redress like going to court and all of that?
No, one thing I must tell you clearly is that you have made reference to Section 39. I would also make reference to Section 22, Chapter 2, where we have been the responsibility of holding government accountable, ensuring accountability, transparency, probity, good governance is reposed in the media. Yes, the Constitution has merely sent journalists on an errand. There is no empowerment. There is no protection for the journalists. As we speak today, there is no single law that exists in Nigeria that protects the journalists, not one. All the reviews, all the amendments, all the bills, acts, and what have you, the Constitution itself does not protect the journalists. That in itself is a major issue as far as press freedom is concerned, because it is akin to sending somebody to go and catch the lion with bare hands. You and I would agree it is practically difficult, to achieve that. So if we are going to start the process of ensuring there is press freedom in our client, then we must begin to look at our laws, review them, and also grant the journalist, the professional, some level of protection, because there's no protection for him. The government has put laws in place which will help them check activities of the media professional, but the journalist himself does not enjoy any form of protection at all. And that is a major issue we are facing here as professionals, as a nation, and something must have to be done about that.
All right. Well, let me come back to the studio, to our guest here in the studio. Earlier, you mentioned, Osiguzo, in your comment, you talked about economic freedom for the journalists, which, you know, you may even argue that it's a major threat to the practice of journalism, you know, objectively in Nigeria and the rest of them. So how can we ensure economic freedom for the journalists so that they don't compromise in their jobs? You know, let me start with you, and I will go back to Osiguzo.
Yes, economic freedom. You see, right from the employing or employment stage, let's look at the terms and conditions so spelled out in the employment letter. Now, at the point Ayuba was hired here, what's the transportation looking like? What's his basic salary looking like? What about the family itself? What about education, transportation, you know, housing, for example, very, very key. Look at even those who covered the president at the presidential villa. Find out where many of them live. They live so far in some remote villages at the point you complete your journey to your house via a motorcycle. You know, but you are in a number one beat. You go to the National Assembly, the same thing. So the moment we don't have a situation where in the workplace you don't have loans to go into housing, then there is a problem. In your workplace, do you also have for vehicle in terms of movement? This is very, very key. Now, what about the children you have? You go to school, like the President NUJ said, you employ people, give them ID card. You are not giving them salaries for 6 months. Yet they have to go to the same market where inflation does not segregate and say, journalist, I'm your friend. No, it is all encompassing. So the economic power has to be there. Salaries of journalists should also be a kind of a special scale. Not that, I mean, those days, I mean, even up to now, you hear them talking about press boys. I mean, a doctor is there, he says, oh, this is a doctor. This is a colonel, he says, oh, he's a colonel. This is a general, he's a general, you know. But the moment you say there's a general, oh, it's time for you to just close your legs because some troublesome people are on ground. That is always the issue here. And some of the media owners are not helping issues. When you employ people who say, don't I give you an ID card, it's already your meal ticket. It does not matter, therefore, whoever you're going to blackmail in order to survive. It does not matter who indeed is being blackmailed and what does the media organization get in return. Okay, patronage. What kind of patronage? Adverts are being sent to you. You see some journalists...
Sheman, sorry to cut you, but you talked about what does the media organization get in return? Patronage. Adverts have been sent to you. But then the state also uses that to gag the press. Because, for instance, an institution can be giving advert to a particular media organization, and then this media organization does an investigative report against this institution, and then they cut that advert. What has the advert got to do with the job? Because when you do an investigation, it's the job. When you bring an advert, we are carrying out a service for you.
Yes, you see, this thing is like the thing they call in biology, food web, food chain. You eat this one, what you throw away, another person eats, another thing eats it, and that person develop a tree, develop you. In other words, see, let's bring the case of Luka Biniat, who used to be with Vanguard. He did some investigations, investigative stories, and at the point, his employers didn't like this, some government authorities didn't like this, they complained, and that man was sent out of his area of operation. On the way to report he had an accident, and at the point he was even arrested, detained. See, he would appear in court in crutches. His salary was stopped. At the point, the owner said, your services are no longer required. And of course, the Kaduna State government kept on persecuting. I said persecuting, not just, I mean, so that is always the thing with the journalists. So when the government feels this journalist, if you don't remove him, these adverts you are getting from us, we're going to stop them. It's a kind of also sanctioning the press. It's gagging even the owner of the media. So now, if your source of income is just dependent on government, then this is the issue.
All right.
And that's why many media organizations also go into some other areas of investments to ensure that they survive.
Okay.
And how many media organizations can really survive without government patronage?
Okay.
And if you also check, many media organizations, when you are harsh on government will tend to patronize you because, look, how do we close their mouth? Send adverts to them so that this is how it will work.
Okay,
wash my hands, I wash yours.
Let's hear from the NUJ President Chris Isugozu. Now, Chris, still talking about economic freedom for the journalists and for the media. To what extent do you think that this has impacted on the jobs that journalists do, really, and, you know, informed how free they are to operate in our climate?
Well, somebody called me this morning, and from a particular state who works with the media organization, and she said that they've not been paid for 2 months. And she told me that some people had told them that you people are complaining when we are being owed 8 months. And she said that she was not eager to go to work today because she has not been paid for 2 months. Now, that is a very short story of the impact of economic challenge on the media. When you don't pay the worker, of course, you are not going to get the best from that professional. That's the truth. You're not going to, and you are going to expose the person to all manner of compromise. I recall during our conference in Lagos, the National Nigerian Press Organization, and when they were talking about the code of ethics for journalists, and everybody was reeling out what the journalists must do and what the journalists must not do and what have you. And I allowed them to make their presentations, including media owners. And by the time I stood up, I told them that the actions or inactions of any journalist is influenced by the actions and inactions of all of you seated here. And they were proprietors. When you don't pay the journalist, how do you expect him or her to keep in tandem with the ethics, the code of ethics you have reeled out? It will be difficult because the journalist does not go to the market to buy something and tells the seller that I'm a journalist and they will hand over the wares to him. He doesn't go to the mall and identifies himself as a journalist and everything is given to him, or to the gas station. No, he is the same Nigerian, just like any other person, and is influenced by what happens in the system. So I would tell you that this economic challenge is a very huge challenge we must find a way of addressing. The journalist receives about the least form of remuneration, and it's not a good one. That's why every other day you see talk about, some people talk about brown envelope, what is the union doing, somebody that is hungry, is angry, and can be exposed to a whole lot. That's the truth. And we must begin to address. That's why as a union, at some time we collaborated with Tratao, Radio, Television, and Theatre Arts Workers Union of Nigeria, to give birth to what is called today as weigh-in allowance, which most people who work in the state, federal organizations, media establishments, and the public establishments are getting. Weigh-in allowance was more like adding something to what they earn at the end of the month, which is still not good. As we speak, most states in the federation are not implementing the weigh-in allowance. Now, this is for public establishments. What about private establishments? They are not thinking about it at all. There are media houses as we speak today that have fully casualized media practitioners in their establishment. They have become freelance reporters. They now pay them based on what they contribute. That is casualization. And that's what we are witnessing in our time. How do you expect such group of professionals to fend or to attend to their own needs, their family needs, and people around them? That is a major issue that we must begin to address.
All right, Comrade Isugozu, there's this new trend, or I do not know about this, maybe it's been there for a while, where because we've seen a situation where groups now block certain journalists because of the kind of reports that they do, or they'll stop inviting that journalist for events. Is there anything the NUJ can do about that? Because that's the way of gagging the press. Some of reporters come and say that, oh, I've been removed from this particular group. I've been removed, and then you say, why did that happen? And then he says or she says it was because of the report we published yesterday. And you do know that that report was not false. So what do you think the NUJ can do about that?
Well, that brings us to the issue of digital attack. Sometimes attack journalists is not just about the one that borders on security. Maybe when you have issues about harassment, incessant arbitrary arrests, attacks, intimidation, and what have you. Digital attack is linked to the question you've raised, where journalists will take time, investigate a report, write the report. The next thing is you see political actors engaging the activities of those they call data boys to inflict psychological harm on the journalists. That's what you go through. Yes, you see some platforms like you observed because of a particular report you've written and they remove the person. And the next thing you see is that they write to the establishment, please replace this person we don't want. That is a problem. And that's why I am happy with the kind of marriage that is brewing up between the frontliners, the gatekeepers, and the proprietors. That is under the platform of Nigerian Press Organization. We are now beginning to understand ourselves so that even when such an organization says, okay, I don't want Chris because of the kind of report, please replace him, you will write back to them and say, no, we are not replacing him, and we're going to blacklist you if you are not going to work with that person. By the time we do it to 1, 2, 3, 4, you will no longer hear about these stories. But the problem is, because when they make such demands, we accede to them. They don't want Chris, you remove Chris, and you give them Isiguzo, or you give them Peter or John. Then they continue to do what they're doing. It is wrong. One thing is, we have established laws. Like I said, for now, it's still a law until it is repealed, the Cybercrime Prohibition Act. We have the Criminal Code. We have laws on libel. So if somebody has written something you consider is not real, or you have been so maligned, the laws are clear for you to explore them. But a situation where you are going to yank the person from his beat because he has written a report you don't consider friendly, that in itself is completely a no-no for us, and we will not encourage it. So we'll continue to interface with the media owners, with the gatekeepers. Those I call gatekeepers are the editors. Most times they are the people who encourage this, and it is not good for the profession. When you get such report, you are the same person that published the report in question as the editor, because the reporter has sent it to you. You published it. They are yanking off the reporter, and you are replacing the reporter for a story you facilitated or you approved and authorized, and it was published. You can now see the problem we have. So we must have to understand that all of us are linked to each other. If we want to have a profession that is very strong, responsible, responsive, formidable, we must all link up, team up, and give that kind of profession to the Nigerian people.
All right. Thank you so much. The National President, Nigerian Union of Journalists, Comrade Chris Isiguzo, and Ben Shemang, former Director of News Voice of Nigeria. Thank you for joining us on Daybreak and sharing your perspectives with us on this day, the World Press Freedom Day. This is where we end the discussion.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Isiguzo. Well, that's our show for today. In case you've missed, you can always catch up across all our social media platforms and also on our YouTube live stream. My name is Ayuba Ilya. Join us again tomorrow.
Thank you for joining us this morning. Join us at 8 a.m. tomorrow also. My name is Stella Iyaji, and to have a very pleasant day.